thank you everyone who joined, who's shown interest in this. We're really excited for how much interest we got last month, how much interest we got for this next one. We're hoping to have a big group here today, and our real objective, like the reason we're doing this coaching call, is to help our users at a time when we feel like, I don't know if you guys are feeling it, but I feel like our vendors are coming to us like, hey, congrats, inflation's still high, here's a price increase, and good luck out there, champ. And it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it's a very challenging space to be. And we believe that if we are able to share best practices, better skill sets, help exchange learning, and bring a group together who's looking to accomplish more when it comes to capturing more business out of their existing relationships, what we're going to be able to do is collaborate and accomplish more together than we could individually. And as a result of that, everyone in the group is going to be uplifted, and it's going to benefit us as your service provider, because this is just going to our MonitorBase users. And it's going to benefit you because if we can help you develop skill sets and better utilize our system, we know long-term that it's going to create a much stronger, lasting partnership as a provider, which really, guys, has always been our goal. So really appreciate those jumping on the call here. We're about 2 minutes in, so I think we can get started. For those of you guys who might not know me, my name is William Warren, and I've got our CEO on the call if you want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Louis Zitting. Nice to meet you. Excited to be here.
Awesome. And I do want to lead out, if any of you guys were on the previous call, then we did mention we're hoping to gather information, questions, address any concerns that you have. So if you have questions, what I'm asking is if you'll email william@monitorbase.com, I'll check those out at the end. And if I can't answer all of those questions during this presentation today, I'll get you an answer either through email afterwards, or we will bring it up and we'll address those questions on the next call. Because to us, it's like we sit over here and we provide a service and we help people reset their passwords. But we don't always know when someone is hitting a roadblock, what struggles they're dealing with, what they're trying to overcome. And so those questions are actually really valuable for us to get from you. So it's not like a bother. We do want to know where you're getting stuck. And then also, if you were on the previous call, if you guys had any successes with some of the tactics and the tricks that we gave you last time. So one of those specifically that we gave that I think is a really overlooked tactic was when you get these credit trigger alerts, hey, Charlie had his credit pulled for a mortgage. Maggie might call Charlie that day, that moment, and Charlie's going to say, nope, I have a lender. Things are going great. Thanks for talking. No, thank you. Bye. Right? And that's a lot of cases what happens when you call a trigger. But what we recommend you do is set a reminder for 3 weeks, 21 days from now, reach out to Charlie again. And that outreach is actually a very, very useful point of contact. And the reason it's useful is Charlie's life is going to look way different in 3 weeks than it does today as far as that loan is concerned. If everything's in a row and everything's going great, sometimes that, you lost the deal anyways. And Charlie's going to be too far down the track to win it back. But if he's run into any issues or that loan officer has dropped the ball, and oftentimes, they're dealing with a bank or a credit union or someone that's just not really specialized in that particular product category. And if you're the expert and you really know that client and you know the programs, you're going to be able to step in and make a huge difference in that person's life. So what we really recommend, and I want to know if anyone tried this and has had success, because I know if you've tried it for the last the last month, it's been a month since we did this, you would have been surprised at how that changes the dynamic in 2 to 3 weeks of time before you do that outreach. So if you do, let me know. We're really interested here. But jumping in, we want to go through just a couple of things here as we are kind of structuring this best practice coaching training. One of those is, if you have questions, send those over. 2 is, I'm going to say this every single call, guys. There is no easier way to make sure that you're getting as much business out of your own database than this one tactic, and that is making sure that your database is actually complete and where it needs to be. If you have a database and it's split between 2 or 3 spreadsheets and you only have some of them in your MonitorBase account and some of them in a CRM and some of them somewhere else, there is no cheaper, no easier, no more effective way to get business than an additional piece of business from a past customer. I mean, if you've gone out and you've bought online leads, which I'm sure some of you have some exposure to it. If not, I guarantee you can check your inbox. There's someone trying to sell you online leads right now. If you've bought them before, that hey, they're cheap, they're easy, right? That's kind of the vision that they paint. But the truth is, someone buying online leads spends about, on the lowest side, about $1,000, and on the highest end, about $2,000 to $3,000 to close a deal when buying online leads. And I'm not making those numbers up. That is like, if you have a really cost-effective team that's got a system dialed in, they're spending over $1,000 per funded loan to close loans out of online leads. And the reality is, you compare that to getting business out of your own database of customers, you'll often spend 1/10 or less that kind of cost in order to get a deal over here. So we all need more sources of business. And I promise you, there is no easier way to do that. No more cost effective, no more beneficial, long-term, will help you today and tomorrow and next month and next year than focusing on and taking the time to make sure your database is where it needs to be and put together. It's a scary thing. Sometimes that's spread between multiple places, needs some formatting issues. But guys, I promise you, that's going to be worthwhile. So go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, so I just want to kind of clarify what we always say database. Really what that means to us is, anybody, whatever piece of contact info you have for somebody that knows you or you know them, like a real actual connection, right? And that's where that, 10 times more cost effective, but also 10 times more engagement happens. Is that if somebody knows that you're a real person and they've talked to you even years and years ago, then that engagement is going to be 5 to 10 times better than if you're doing some consumer direct campaign and trying to engage with a stranger. So when we say database, it's anyone you know that will likely remember your name, or you have, some way that you can say, hey, here's how we know each other. It's just not just your past funded loans. There's so many more contacts that you have.
For sure. And guys, if you don't know, all that we need on our end in the MonitorBase system is a name and either their address, their email address, or their cell phone number. We don't need all of those. We need a name and one of those components. So it really can be phone contacts, email contacts, CRM contacts. It's any of those people. And it's important that you have the relationship. Like I've given this example. If somebody had sold me a car, they're going to be marketing to me. I really don't mind marketing to them if they have their credit pulled for a mortgage. Because remember, like the whole philosophy with MonitorBase is not going out there and trying to talk someone into doing something that they don't already have an interest in. We're not a marketing company that's selling people on this big idea that's new and flashy and different. We're finding existing needs out of your existing relationships, and we're helping pair those together so you know the exact right time to be reaching out to the right person. And with that in mind, it really can be a broader contact list than what you might initially think when you're just thinking past customers out of your CRM. So it's a great point. But kind of stepping forward, once you've got your database, and I'll keep nagging you guys about it, but once you have your database here and you start to monitor, there's about today, like this month, it's still hovering right about the 1% point. 1% of that database is starting the loan process with somebody every single month. In the busiest markets, that's about 2.5%. We're still bouncing right at the bottom of the tranche of what we see as far as quantity goes. But still, if you have a database of 1,000 people, that's 10 people that will be starting the loan process each and every month. A vast majority of those are purchases. There's still a small percentage of refinances, cash out, but that 1% is really what we're targeting for opportunity. So take your database, divide it by 100, and that's about the amount of loans that we're trying to give you a shot at capturing each month. And we will let you know, guys, as soon as that hops up to 1.25, 1.5, like we'll keep you, aware of the amount of opportunity. But it doesn't take a big database to give you enough opportunity that you should be willing to pay attention here. The couple of strategies before we kind of go into what we plan for today's call, as far as like our advanced strategy, which we're trying to hit like, hey, here are the basics. and then give you an advanced strategy every coaching call is our objective. So the basics, guys, calling on your credit triggers. How many of you were on the last call? I'm just kind of curious if there is repeat. And there's a hand raise button that you can click that lets me know without you having to unmute. Looks like mostly a fresh group. So what we recommend, you're getting the real-time credit triggers the moment the person has their credit pulled for a mortgage. We have scripting available on our website. Have any of you guys viewed the playbooks and looked at how those are written? Because one of the biggest barriers that we see people run into is it's like, all right, I know that Mike had his credit pulled for a mortgage, but Mike doesn't know I know, right? And that makes kind of an interesting social dynamic when I'm calling Mike. So I need to build up the confidence and just have the plan in place so that I can follow that process. Because if you're waiting until you're picking up the phone before you're thinking about what you're going to say, you're probably not going to dial the number. And so we recommend pull up one of those playbooks, read through it, get the plan in place, and say, okay, when I get these alerts, I'm going to call and I'm going to do this process, and I'm going to follow that process a couple of times. And I promise you, if you'll follow those playbooks, and you can modify them, if you'd like, but if you'll follow those, you'll find success early. It doesn't take very much work to engage someone in a conversation. And from there, the goal isn't to say, hey, Mike, I've been watching you. I saw you had your credit pulled for a mortgage. What the hell, man? Why didn't you come back to me? I closed your last loan. I did so much work for you, right? Like that's the fear of what a lot of people kind of go down in their head when they're thinking, how am I going to follow up on these alerts? Because truly, it does feel a little bit like you found someone cheating on you. And I say that not of my own words, like that is how loan officers describe getting some of our alerts. It's like, I worked really hard to get that loan and help that person, and now they're going elsewhere. So you have to plan on having a little bit of emotional resistance to it. And that's why we have these playbooks to help you get into the right mindset where it's like, hey, I'm here to help this person. And I'm going to help them by making sure they're getting a good deal, by answering questions, by making sure things are taken care of. And whether they choose to come back to me or not is okay. I'm here and I'm going to do what I can to be a benefit to this person. And you'll see if you read those playbooks, it really is built to try and help you do exactly that. So doing a point of contact on the day of your alert, and then I mentioned this earlier, doing that second point of contact, at least 2 points, about 3 weeks later. And you can do more than that, and we recommend it. But if you reach out and Mike answers the phone and he says, I'm good, no thanks, bye, I'm still doing another point of contact in 3 weeks. And that can be as absolutely simple as, hey, Mike, it's William. I'm just checking in to make sure things are still going well. We talked about 3 weeks ago. You said, you thought it was taken care of, but I just want to do a quick check-in and make sure and see how it was going, right? I'm not saying, hey, have you reconsidered? Will you reconsider? I'm just checking in, making sure he's doing okay. We have a relationship, and so that's not going to be hard to do. And he's, sometimes he's going to say, yep, still great. I appreciate it. Bye. Other times he's going to be like, you know what? This loan officer won't answer the phone, or I really don't understand this problem that I'm dealing with. So on the triggers, real time, call when you get them, follow one of those playbook scripts, set a reminder to follow up in 3 weeks if they say no. If they don't answer, if you're just leaving voicemails, do a couple more touch points. It takes a little bit of work to get in touch with someone, especially in today's day and age, especially if it's been a few years since you've heard from them. So those are kind of the bare minimum tactics that we recommend for the triggers. Now, we covered this a little bit last time, and I want to go over it again. How many of you have used predictive alerts? Can you guys do a hand raise? Let me know if you've seen those come into your account. Not all of our users have access to them, just depending on your company. Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So predictive is a really interesting alert, and I want to touch on it, and I want to touch on Premover. Because what we're finding is when we run our inquiry alerts, hey, these people just had their credit pulled for a mortgage, and we want to run our predictive alerts side by side. Running both of them is actually more powerful than running each individually. And what we find is when we give you an inquiry alert, about 1 in 10 of those, when we give you a predictive alert, about 1 in 10 of those predictive alerts is going to have an inquiry alert within a 90-day window is basically the metric that we're looking at. Now, funny enough, of those 1 in 10, you guys are capturing some of them, but it's only a fraction. It's less than it's about 20% of those predictive alerts that we give you that end up starting and having that credit trigger, that starting that loan process with somebody. About 20% start with you and about 80% start with someone else. And when we're running the predictive program, I think people look at it and they compare it to triggers and they call. And when Mike says, nope, I'm not in the market right now, it's a negative experience. And you're like, well, damn, MonitorBase said you were. So I guess the MonitorBase system was wrong, right? And the truth is, we expect to be wrong about 9 out of 10 times. And that's why these are early pre-market alerts. But we're getting them to you before they're working with someone else. And so it makes it way easier to reach out, way easier to engage. And once you've engaged them in a conversation, you don't have to say, hey, Charlie, do you need a mortgage right now? You're touching base, you're re-engaging, you're asking what's going on in their life. And then if Charlie happens to be the one that starts the loan in the next 90 days, what are the chances he's going to call a new lender versus the guy he was talking to 3 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, right? That's the strategy. So you're not calling and expecting to take a loan application on the first call. And I want to emphasize that because it's a numbers game, but it's an easy numbers game. I'm not calling trying to win Charlie out of the hands of another loan officer. I'm calling, I'm checking in. And again, I think we got a question about where the playbooks are. If you go to the MonitorBase site, you can search within our knowledge base, and you can access the knowledge base once you're logged into your account, or you can do it without logging in just from monitorbase.com. And we could probably put that in the chat here.
Yeah,
but
I'm
you'll be able to search. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
The other part is with each alert, if you're logged into your account, looking at the alert, there's a script and playbook button by the alert intel. So it says, hey, here's the reason this person's likely in the market, we think. Right below that is a script and playbook that corresponds to that specific scenario.
Perfect. Yeah. And so what we're seeing, guys, is when you're running these predictive alerts, and the inquiry alerts, and funny enough, the pre-mover alerts, each of them performs a little bit different from a cost to create a loan in process perspective. All of them are under $100 that you'll spend on MonitorBase alerts to put a deal into your pipeline, credit pulled, that person is working on a pre-qual, all of them. And so to us, to spend $100 to get a deal in process is a no-brainer. There's no amount of that should be a restriction from a cost perspective. Now, interestingly, the best performer is the listing alert. That one
Cost-wise.
Because the listing alert is data only, it's cheap. It's, hey, Grant just listed his home for sale or for rent. About half of the time when you get a listing alert, that person has not started working with a lender yet. They are listing before starting the loan process. And what you're able to find there is, if you'll give Grant a call when he lists his home, there's a 50% chance he's not working with a lender yet. And so it's a slam dunk. He's absolutely going to need a mortgage when he buys his next house. So there's definitive need. And it's just a very easy alert to follow up on when it comes to your own database of customers. So I want to emphasize from a cost perspective, like that one costs, I think it's like $30, something like that.
Yeah, 25, 30 is the average to put a loan in process when we did the math.
So it's not a matter of cost, guys, as far as like that alert goes. Really, as far as any of these alerts go. Like, how many of you would not spend the $25 to get a deal in process today? It's like, that's not the restriction. It's about building the system and doing the follow-up. So when you get these...
And how do you approach them too? Like, it's kind of similar to an inquiry to where it's like, okay, I don't need to call and hound them. I just know that this is an indicator that something's happening. And so this is the time when I should re-engage and say hi and remind them who I am, that I'm here to help and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you don't have to try and get every one of them. Right. We expect that you're going to call on some of these and they're not going to answer. You're not going to reach them. But just a little bit of outreach on your side is going to result in more conversations. And these are people that are in the market or will very shortly be in the market. So when we run the spectrum, guys, to get a deal in process on our MonitorBase alerts, people spend between $25 and $100, depending on which alert type. But again, it's relatively simple to follow the playbooks, and those are linked in the chat. And if you follow those playbooks, that'll help you re-engage with the right scripting, with the right cadence, with the right tips on that specific alert. And that will give you what you need to turn that alert into a deal in your pipeline. And that's really our objective here. So I didn't want to skip over the power of the pre-mover alert. It's a lot of people sleep on it. They really look at it and it's like, okay, but it's interestingly enough, the most cost-effective way that we've seen anybody get deals in their pipeline. Inquiry is actually right behind it. It's almost just as inexpensive. And then predictive is, somewhere in that $70-ish range. But predictive is way easier to call on, because when I'm calling on a predictive alert, the person's not already working with another lender. They are not already having that conversation, and I'm trying to fight that, back into my pipeline. These are my customers. They're people I've worked with in the past. So I'm okay being a competitor in that space. But predictive, you're not competing. You're the first one there. It's a big, blue ocean of opportunity, and there's really no other competitor fighting for that transaction yet. And so you get to have that conversation, nurture it in a very easy space. So
I think, like, for predictive, the simplest thing that we would love everyone to understand is, think of that as a pre-market alert. So if you had a crystal ball and you said, hey, these people are likely to be in the market in the next 90 days, then what would you do, right? You reach out and connect. That's all you need to do. Is, don't call and say, hey, do you want to do a mortgage? Because at the time they might say no, because that moment they're not thinking about it. But shortly in the future, the stats show that they likely are, right? So it's, hey, how you doing? Just wanted to let you know I'm here to help. See how things are going. What are your plans for home purchase, etc. If you want to get into that. And then set really simple reminders to follow up a couple more times over that 90-day period. And then you'll have a huge advantage over what anybody else in the industry is doing, which is, if they even have a system like MonitorBase, then they're waiting for the inquiry. Or the other option is to send everyone a monthly newsletter or something and just wear out the inbox. So I think we've kind of beat on that enough. But yeah, just keep it simple. You doesn't need to be a super sell. Just have a little habit of checking in with those, and statistically, those are going to end up in your pipeline.
Perfect. Now, Louis, I think you had kind of an advanced strategy that we're seeing some people use in today's market with the NAR lawsuit, with the current, just disruption in the realtor space. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I like the strategy you were talking about.
Yeah, and it's not a lot different from what we've been training people all along the way, which is, talk to your partners about how you could, you have this tool, and how do you guys work together in a compliant manner to where you can identify these buyers or sellers upstream and work with them on how to get those back to them at the right time, right? So with the NAR settlement, I'm not here to say how that's all going to shake out. You guys you're the practitioners. You guys are going to figure it out before anybody else can speculate how those are going to happen. But I'm hearing many different ways that lenders are going, whether that's dual employment, or how is it going to change commission, or how are the, marketing service agreements going to work. I'm not sure. But the thing that we do know is that agents generally build much larger contact database relationships than the average loan officer, because the agents are out there for years and years doing a lot of the marketing to the consumers, and they talk to 3 or 4 before they ever even send one over to a lender, right? So generally they have great databases of people that know them, they know their face, and they've seen them on the billboard. So when you're talking to these agents about all these changes, and right now, by the way, they're very receptive to, trying new things out, right? Don't forget to talk to them about have that tool that you have that you can provide to them one way or another, however your relationships pan out, you can find both sellers and buyers with a system that they actually don't have access to as an agent. You have to be part of a lender. So, we went over that the prior relationships, the engagement rate is 5 to 10 times as good as if you were to talk to a stranger that you're marketing to on Facebook or with direct mail or whatever it might be. Well, that's similar with their database to them, and it's valuable to them and not to somebody else. So, when we say database, it's not that they have a big database of names and phone numbers and emails. That doesn't matter. You can buy all that from 10 different sources, right? It's that they have that relationship. So, don't let them overlook that or throw that away, because if they can work with you, and you can help identify those sellers upstream or, first-time buyers before they go and talk to a competitor of theirs, then that's huge value. So yeah, the bottom line is, you've got big value to give. And so don't forget to have a discussion about that with your partners to identify buyers, sellers, and even refinances. There's still some cash outs happening, but there's deals that are going to happen in those agents' databases that you guys could work together to figure out how to monetize that.
Well, and we've always called the strategy Partner Connect. Partner Connect is you actually have access to this data and they don't. And you have access to find opportunity in a way that they don't. And so it's this database that, without a system like a MonitorBase account that can look for and find, hey, these are the people you should be focusing on. What they ultimately do is either ignore them or they sit and drip on them with marketing emails. The problem is, it's like, the stats, 99% of the people are not in need of the services right now. So if you drip on them with marketing emails and they don't need the services, ultimately what they're doing is they're wearing the audience out. And this is the problem we deal with in our CRMs anyways. So being able to narrow the list down to just the percentage that are in the market or the couple that are going to be in the market in the next few months, you're able to do a lot more focused marketing, get a lot better results while not burning your whole list to the ground, because you really do burn it down when you go too aggressive. Your subscribe rates go up high and your spam rates, and people stop answering as people stop paying attention. And ultimately, it's a huge issue. You're ending up with a list of people where you've built a relationship where you can't actually reach out to them because they've blocked you, they've unsubscribed, they've requested that you no longer reach out. And it's this dynamic of being able to do that at the right time that really makes a big difference here. So we're right here near the end of our time spot. I appreciate everyone jumping on. Does anyone have questions? I guess we've got 2 minutes. We could probably jump in and answer a question or two if anyone has them. If not, we really appreciate the time on the call today, guys. We do have this planned for the next Tuesday of, the next first Tuesday of the month, which would be.
Let us know, where did we go into enough detail and where did we not? Because we want to make sure, giving you guys what you need on these. We got 10,000 different users, so we don't know, what level of understanding of the system does everybody have that's coming to it. And I'm sure it's that's coming to these, and I'm sure it's different. So just let us know, like, hey, I'd love to learn more about that, or I'd love you to drill into that. Because otherwise we're just going to sit up here and talk, and, we don't want it to be so one-sided. So.
Perfect. All right. Grant mentioned recommendations for Partner Connect. We can cover that as a strategy next time on scripting, the value that you're actually bringing to the table and how to kind of position that and turn that into, we actually have the whole process built, how to schedule that meeting, what that messaging should be in the first meeting, what you need to follow up that meeting with, what items you need from them, and then how you take those next steps. Yeah. And it's a really valuable tool, because what you're coming to them and saying, hey, you have this kind of untapped potential. We can help you capitalize on it. And as a result of that capitalization, I'm going to get more business and you're going to get more business, and we're going to be a better partner together. And with anything MonitorBase, we're not out here trying to drum up business out of thin air. It's actually business that's happening anyways. We're going to help steer it to you instead of letting it just go out to whichever competitor they happen to find of yours. And that's the real like vision of what we're looking for. It's like there's this much business happening every single month in your relationships already, and you're only capturing a small portion of it. How do we help you capture more of that? And that's exactly the strategy, the pitch there. So Grant mentioned he liked that. If anyone else wants that, we can cover that on the next call and kind of go into an advanced strategy on Partner Connect. I think that could be a really valuable technique. So, but yeah, if you guys have questions, email me, william@monitorbase.com. If you have recommendations or suggestions or just anything that you would like to see in this, our goal is to show up, help get on the same page, help address questions, help people move forward, find things that are working, find things that aren't working. And if we do that together, it doesn't take a lot of time. And I think we're all going to be benefited as a result of it. So we're right here 1 minute past the hour or the half hour, but thank you everyone who joined. We appreciate it. We will catch you on the next call.
Thanks, guys.